fantastic. So I'm Jonathan, and I'm involved in the Centre for Creative-Relational Inquiry, along with a few other people. We're very delighted to be hosting Shalhavit. And this is the first event of the Research Centre's activities for this calendar year, so it's great that you're here. And I've got a little bit of information to tell you about Shalhavit, but you're going to say more. Shalhavit's going to say more about her work and herself. But Shalhavit's a research fellow at Harvard at the moment, brought up in Israel. Her specialism is in online education, and she's going to be coming to Edinburgh to work with Amy as one of her supervisors, and Matthias Schwanauer from the School of Health, who's a clinical psychologist, to do some work on the work she's been doing on online education and user experience, and bringing that together with film, is my understanding, kind of bringing psychology and a business, kind of a quote business approach to thinking about film. And this is what she's going to be talking about this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you. Yay. So thank you so much for coming. My name is Shalhavit, and you're going to learn a little bit more about my research as I go, because that's pretty much what I'm going to share. I also wanted to say that as much as I'm excited to share with you, I'm also excited to learn from you. So don't hesitate to ask anything if it wasn't clear, because there's definitely a lot I can learn from you as well. So user experience engineering. Has anyone ever heard the term before? Okay, so engineering is designing, or the traditional approach for companies, when they've created a product, they would make a really good product, focus on making something really good as much as they understood, and then bring it out to the market. The user experience approach, which is the modern way, that's what Apple is doing and Google is doing, is finding who is your user, who is your customer, who is your patient, who is the person that you're actually approaching. Finding that target demographic, focusing on them, seeing what are their challenges, what are their aspirations, what is their day like, and designing a product for that specific person. And so engineering or designing the experience for the user is basically asking who is the user. And we're going to elaborate on that a lot. But before we even start, I want to have a short practice. And it's called co-counseling. It's a hippie practice from the 60s. And I'd like you to find a person that you haven't spoken with, you don't know very well. And I'm going to give the instructions, and then I'm going to let you go and find your partner. So you'll have 3 minutes each, where when I say go, one person would start talking, and the other person listens. It sounds very simple. What we're used to today in our conversation, or at least in the 60s, we're used to 30 seconds of conversation. Usually after 30 seconds, and that's in the 60s, today it's probably less. After 30 seconds, we usually get interrupted with the other person's response. Another thing in conversation, when we have a conversation, we sometimes think about what we're going to answer, or what do we have to add to the conversation. So we don't find ourselves often in a place where we're listened to. The co-counseling is usually done for 10 minutes or an hour each. We're going to do 3 minutes each. And so one person, your challenge is to talk for 3 minutes. Usually, again, after 30 seconds, you'll find yourself like, So try to stretch. You could yawn or move or laugh or cough. Shake your body so you could keep on talking. The listener, their job is to not interrupt. You could say yes, you could agree, you could, nod with your head, but just encourage the other person to keep on talking for 2 minutes. Any questions? All right, so let's find out.
Are we talking about any subject?
Anything you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you'll keep time for us, will you?
Yes, I will keep time for you.
And the listener asks an initial question to set it off, or is it just literally you just sit down together and the person who's doing the talking just goes?
You could talk about how you don't understand what this is about.
Right, okay.
You could talk about how anxious you are, talk about your day, whatever you want to talk about. All right, so find your partner, and then I'll tell you when to start. All right, you can wrap up your conversation. Thank you very much. So I want to hear from you. How did you feel? What did you learn?
Well, listening was much more interesting than talking. Yeah. Strange. Listening was just great.
And easier.
Yeah? Any other insights?
It was very useful having some chocolate nearby.
Okay, good.
I wanted to just, like, even when I was listening, not interrupt, but just say things like, cool, interesting. It was hard to just be like...
It is hard.
And I felt the first 2 minutes just passed so quickly.
Yeah.
And then when you said half a minute, it was like,
So this is a very, very important experience that I like to start when I come to speak and to present. It's one of the basic foundations of user experience engineering. I want first you to be the center of this. I want this to be about you. And if I just start talking, I love the stage. I could just stand here for hours. But I think the most important thing is really starting with engaging you and getting you excited. Anyone heard of Dale Carnegie? One of the world's best sellers of How to Win Friends and Influence People, a very successful businessman who basically planned his entire business. He explains in his book. It's a fascinating book if you're looking for a new book to read. And he's talking about how when he approaches people, he doesn't say, hey, I have this great thing to show you. I have this. Let me show you what I could do. I'm an expert in this, and I'm. He says, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Right? Asking, first of all, saying, hey, I noticed that you could use this, or basically asking the you, looking for the other person. And that is basically this whole theory is about. So I want to show you some really fun examples of user experience engineering. What do you think about this experience?
Cool.
Okay. Does anyone use these anymore?
Okay, I'm starting.
Okay. How about those stairs? Or those cans, right? We have a lot of experiences. Keyboards, a floor cleaner that looks like this. What?
Oh my goodness.
A few examples are very poor. We have the good experience and the bad experience, right? Which one do you prefer? So how do you design and think about who you're... oh, there we go. The elevator, the numbers. Okay? So thinking about your user is a big thing, and often engineers really want to show their capabilities and forget to think about the other side. All right. When you see things like that, the problem is not with you, the problem is with the design. Okay? I have a few cute ones.
Good piece of art.
That's amazing.
Yes. And the clicker has a bad design or bad batteries. Room signs. And lastly...
Do you spend a lot of time in men's toilets?
So again, it's the thought that really counts, thinking about the other side. And this is an example for a very good experience, right? You have the images. Have you ever seen any of those? Right. This is very user-friendly. But even this could be a little bit improved. Right? A good design is obvious, but the basic is to not even have the user even read. If you could do this, everyone understands this. You didn't have to write anything. So impressions. When we first engage with an experience, usually with a website, even a film, we have between 3 to 5 seconds to decide, or we're talking about the millennials. We have 3 to 5 seconds to decide if we want to stay on this webpage. If we 3 to 5 seconds to decide what this is about and if we want to stay. And it applies for videos as well. I made a video of the Cliffs of Moher. I was walking the Cliffs of Moher, and I was walking with my video camera, and then I looked over the top. It was very exciting, but no one really watched the video because I had too long that I was walking on the cliff, so no one really knew that it's going to be exciting soon. So the first impressions make a huge difference. The last impressions actually also make a huge difference. In experiments, medical experiments, when you end the therapy, the procedure with a very painful act, the patient remembers the whole experience is very painful because that's how it ended. They showed at Harvard that if we elongate the experience, make the pain a little bit longer, but slowly reduce it, so the end experience is a lower amount of pain, the patients would prefer to come back. They would remember their experience as not so bad, because that's how the experience ended. So beginnings and ends have a very huge importance in designing an experience. What do you think of this web page? What do you not like about it?
I don't know. I just look at the boxes on the right and I think, oh God, here we go again. We're putting in stuff and ticking things and clicking things.
How about Facebook? I think I forgot one thing about, so both of them had the sign up and log in. Sign up, log in. It's very confusing. It's better to say register, a completely different word that won't be similar to the first one. How about this experience?
It's fine.
Okay, very clean. You know where the search bar is. This is the webpage for Princeton's art department.
What?
Okay. Do you want to study there? So it's the thought. Even Pirate Bay thought a lot about what you see when you first reach the webpage. Whoops. Same? You don't like it?
No, I like it. It's like the same like with the Google.
Yeah.
Like
very clean.
There's
Right.
you center on something right away,
Mm-hmm.
and like then you have everything is like accessible. You know where everything is.
Yes. Even this experience has a very specific user. Okay, Apple is targeting millennials, which are like the adult millennials, which will be maybe in the 20s or 30s today. A lot of people, the younger generation already doesn't like a lot of titles. They prefer the 3 lines that you click on and then you see the menu. So even for them, so this again, it's designed for a specific user. Their paying customer is a customer that wants a little bit of text. It's for a second, I don't even know what this website is about, right? Selling cars. A really good example for a design. All right, Airbnb. You see the place, you see the title, and the red button shows you what to do. I apologize for this clicker. I think it's out of battery.
Would you
We
start
do,
it?
Does
Yeah.
it point at the computer rather than
Oh,
it's the
yes.
computer you need to point at
Oh, yeah.
on the
Okay.
screen?
Thank you. What do you think of the New York Times website?
Oh no.
Not enough pictures.
So I primed you with Google and the simple experiences. Some magazines prefer to have the web page looks exactly like the print because their user is slightly older and is used to this layout. Even though they have so many titles, so much text, they would prefer because that is their user. They did their research and found that this works for them. How about this one?
That's probably the best part of our website.
I appreciate that there are only 2 boxes to fill out. A lot of universities have 3 or 4 boxes to fill out every time you register. So this is a relatively good experience. So way to go, Edinburgh. There's another topic. When we approach a demographic, it's called a beachhead market. When you want to conquer an island, you first conquer the beach. If you want to reach a large demographic of people, you first have to focus on a very specific group. And that's a big concept that user experience research is focusing on a small group, finding what works best for that group and making the best experience for that specific group. And when you conquer that group, when they really like it, then you could you could start designing it for other people. We were designing a website for clothing for babies. And then we thought, oh, maybe we could also make clothing for elderly. Like, why not? We could also make clothing for girls and boys. And when you start getting all over the place, you lose your persona, you lose your specific, the beachhead market. So when you focus on one persona, you could later reach the rest of the island. whoops. Okay, going back to the images that we present. Often in design, we'd like the image to be an addition to what we're saying. So if I write here question and I have a question mark, would that add anything to what I'm trying to convey? Right? Sometimes people would add a pretty picture to the question mark. Thank you.
I'll just be your clicker.
Thank you so much. To make it a little bit pretty, but it still doesn't add a lot of information. It's a person thinking. This is one of the cards. Next.
Sorry.
Oh, you're moving back, forward. One of the cards that we said we want to talk about encouraging inquiry. So we put the student biting their lip to show that students students are afraid to ask questions. I'm going to talk about that research soon. So having an image that adds information. Who knows what word online makes the most money? So if you put that word in the beginning of your email, it's going to make people more likely to open it. It's going to make people more likely to buy your product. Any guesses?
Puts me off, but I'm happy the opposite.
Which one?
Just seeing one is like,
oh, what word makes the most money online? Just one word.
Is it what?
What? Close. Having a question is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely asking a question makes it more likely.
How?
How? Questions are very good. The word is you. If you start the email with you, you are wonderful. I enjoyed your experience. Now I'm just going to think about all the emails I sent her.
I feel like I was being so manipulated.
Really focusing, first of all, it's really the thought of how you interact with people. You first of all think about them. You thank them. You think about what you like. You first of all approach the person, and then you talk about what you actually want to convey. So I want to talk about my research in online education and video education. One of the first platforms that I worked on is edX. Has anyone heard of Coursera? Coursera and edX are two platforms by the universities around the world where universities would put their courses for free online. So Coursera is something that's more popular in Europe. edX is used by Harvard, Yale, Princeton, MIT. And I worked at the MIT platform, so edX, we call MIT's platform MITx. And we were an experimental team, so they allowed my team, we helped professors put their courses online, but making them shorter, making videos. And because we were an experimental team, they gave us a lot of freedom. So we made a short video about the professor and him playing basketball and talking about his life. And the first time we put it online, we had 56,000 students. People were very excited about the course because it was very creative. And because it was so successful, the president of MIT asked my boss to find someone in the team to make a blended learning experiment. So my boss came to me, I'm the people person. We sent an email to the 56,000 students saying, hey, you can come to MIT for this expanded experience on your online course. And we had, the full applications were about 500. Together with my colleague and our intern, we interviewed 200 students. And from those interviews alone, I learned that most of our users are the oldest in the family. Most of our users actually enjoy a lot of common things. So a lot of them enjoy reading historic novels. By doing those interviews, I not only learned how to admit the students to our extended program, but I learned who our persona is. And I hung a picture of Samik. He's 19 years old. He walks every day. He lives in India. He walks every day to school and back. That's an hour each way. And he watches his videos in the evening. And most people had a very similar persona to Samik. We had that target, the persona, and we started designing the videos for that kind of person. I also brought people who are not our persona to the office for interviews, just so the team could meet them. One of them came in and said, I prefer everything in a book. Why don't you just make a book? So great, you're not our persona, and it's good for us to know who we're designing this for. So that's just one example from online research. A research I've done this year was for an app called Prepify, an app for teenagers who, at the US we have SATs, which are the exams to get into college. And the Prepify app was aimed at teens who can't afford tutoring, and provides free information of learning and lessons to prepare for your SATs. A really incredible platform. They even designed it in a very pretty way. But they didn't reach a lot of people. So that's when I met them. And I took the app and I went to high schools. And I told the high schools, listen, I could give you a free class on user experience. And then I could ask the students to be part of a real thing. And I asked them for feedback. So first of all, I gave the schools something for them, a gift, so they'd be interested. And then I asked the students to give me feedback. And in class, I gave them a live demo of user experience. I brought the students to the front, and I asked them to interact with the app, which is what the user experience engineer would do. Listen to the students, ask the student the user to interact, and think out loud. So the student goes, and he clicks the first click, and he gets in, and he sees this, and they're thinking out loud. They're like, wow, a lot of boxes. There's a timeline. I don't know what the timeline is for. Where am I on the timeline? I'm recording this conversation, or his thinking out loud. He clicks on one of the links. Whoops. He clicks on one of the links, and he's like, whoa, all these boxes. I don't know where to start. He clicks on one of them, and he says, this is a lot of reading. There are no pictures. I don't know if I want to read all this. Okay, so this is the first information I gave the founder of the company. I was like, this is your information. I also asked the students what kind of apps they currently use. I learned that a lot of teenagers in the US enjoy playing with Duolingo. It's a language learning app. But they like it because right when they start, there's a question, they answer. There's a little leaf. They answer another question, another leaf, and slowly a flower is built. So it's interacting. I asked them, what's the first thing that you want to see when you open an app like this? They said, it's an app for learning. I want right away a question. They want something right away to engage them, not just tons of information. The last one is Harvard's LMS. It's for Learning Management System. So Harvard's platform for courses. They use an engine called Canvas, or the system called Canvas. This is what Harvard students see when they sign in, also 2 places to sign in. And we get in and we find our courses. The team from Harvard Key asked me to go to the different schools at Harvard and try to find what makes the courses most engaging, what makes the video classes most engaging for students. So my first step was talking to My first step was talking to the designers of the courses, asking what's the most popular courses, why are they exciting, why do students like them? The next step was talking to students from the different classes. What did you enjoy about this class and why? How did you feel connected? And the last was going to faculty, because again, my end user here is the faculty. I got a lot of information from the designers, from the students, but eventually I need the faculty to read this information. So my question is for the faculty eventually, how can I give this information to you? Should we build a website for you? Should we make a board game? Should we put signs everywhere in the bathrooms? I'm going to show you a slide. It's a very bad slide to show. You kind of peeked into it for a second. This is my behind the scenes, okay? Never show a slide like this. Nobody wants to read all of this. But this is my Excel sheet. This is all the research that's behind, right? The instructional design interviews, the students' feedback, the instructors. Let's get out of this because it's kind of scary. But it shows the questions that I was asking and lots of the stories that I got from each student. And I got all this information, and together with my team at Harvard, we put it into 5 categories. And we tried to think, how do we give it to the faculty? It was based on the grant. We got a grant to do this research. The grant was ending. They said, let's build a website. And 2 weeks before the beginning of the semester, we have faculty night, where all the faculty comes together, and they get more tips on how to make their classes better. And 2 weeks before faculty night, I realized that I remembered my interviews with the faculty, and they said that they wouldn't click on another web page. It's too much work for them. They already need to design their course. They need to upload videos, which is hard for them. They're not producers. They need to figure out all the students. And I decided to make cards. And I'll show you these cards in a second. I don't have the originals, so I printed some to kind of show you examples. So there are the 5 categories, and every category has a subtitle. You could pass them around, and each one could take a few if you like. You could keep them, because I'll make more and print out the original ones. Last year I dated a restaurant consultant. So we went to a lot of restaurants, and I saw him giving feedback to restaurant owners. One of the things we did, we looked at menus. And, you know, some menus are full of text. Really scary. You're hungry, you're tired, and you have all this to read. And we came to Edinburgh for my meeting with Amy, and we walk into this one restaurant for desserts, and they have this little index card size menu. And Michael went crazy. He was like, he asked the waiter to call the manager, who called the owner. He was like, I need to buy those for me. I need to show people what good design is for menus. An English card is something for you that's easy to read, to hold. There's an image, there's a little description. And for him, that was the idea. So that's why I made those index-sized cards. And that's the first prototype for something to reach the faculty. So I made those cards, and I'll tell a little bit more about the things that we learned that are on the cards. Faculty really enjoyed it when I showed it to them, but they also had feedback on how to make this better. For example, this card. There's a shirtless skater boy having an interaction with the computer. I thought it was super cool, and some faculty thought it was super cool, but most of the faculty were older, and they're Harvarders, so they're more like the suit and tie. And they said, we can't have this represent Harvard. So they would prefer having connections with just a simple image of an envelope, which is exactly not what I was teaching before. But again, they are my end user, right? So we're working on the beta for them. It's currently open resource online. I can send you all the link if you want to print your own cards. We're working on the beta, which is going to be more boring visuals, but more appropriate for that specific end user. I want to show just some examples of things that we learned about online courses and expectations. One of my favorite cards on expectations was one of the feedback information I got from the students was that they loved when they send an email and right away got a response. So basically that means your TA doesn't have a life. He's constantly responding. So what is an instructor that is one instructor, has no teacher's assistants and 200 students? What does he do? What do they do? If the instructor comes to the students every class and says, hey, there's one of me, 200 of you, I get emails all week. I check my email only on Sunday at 6 p.m. And you should all know that on Sunday at 6 p.m. I'm going to read my emails. And every Sunday by midnight you're going to get a response. Or if there's a question that repeats itself, it's going to be on the discussion boards. So the students know what to expect. And I'm also going to repeat it every week. So repeating and creating a structure that they're familiar with creates that feeling of safety. I recall a class that no one understood what's happening and no one felt safe to even ask what's happening, which is one of the community cards is having the students build their own Facebook groups, because they feel safe to talk to each other without a supervisor there, for example. So it's very interesting information. You can keep the cards and find it online. And any questions so far? Yeah, we're perfect on time. Any questions so far about the cards, or any thoughts of how can you apply that to your users, to your students? I know I was talking very fast.
I've just got one.
Yeah.
I think it's a question. So particularly, I mean, not specifically about this, but just about how do you kind of work with the kind of ethical dynamic of being attentive to people's experience and alongside the kind of the possibility of being manipulative. I mean, you know, when you said, I was thinking about particularly when you said about the most common email, it's a common word that gets most money.
Yeah.
You start with a U.
Right.
And I'm just thinking, it's not at all applicable to here, but I wondered about whether that arises at all. Like, you know, I know if I put you in this email, I've got more chance of getting money from people.
Right. So the question, just to repeat, it's how do you deal with ethics? Because you know how to manipulate people, right? This is all about how to get people interested. Thankfully, in my field, I choose to work with free applications that help children, or education that is free. edX and Coursera are free. And so it's more the science of how to get people interested and engaged. You could use that science to get more money. The example of you is, you know, the proven action is someone would pay money because they feel more personable. And, you know, and also the idea of having a personal experience. Meeting your TA once throughout the semester online changes the entire experience. Having a personable experience for the student is one of the things that also really stuck out. That human element is very important. So, you know, from my perspective, it's just the science of how to get people engaged, how to make an impact, possibly. But definitely it could be used in the business terms. The course at MIT was who was your customer. I'm talking about who is your user. Or who is your patient, for example. Yeah. So actually my upcoming research is going to be approaching teenagers. Click for the next slide. And I'm going to share an example of a research done by Derek Muller at the University of Australia, who tried to give physics information in short videos. And he made animation and really fun, playful videos. And students really enjoyed students really enjoyed watching the videos. They kept on saying, engaging, engaging, engaging. He tested them after the videos. They didn't learn anything. So when we show a video, what Derek found is when we look at a video, our entertainment brain could sometimes turn on, and we just enjoy the experience. And Derek iterated these videos and ended up with what today is a platform called Veritasium on YouTube, where he first starts with a question. And so he walks around the street, physics, he walks around the street asking people, why does the sun emit heat? And the person is like, combustions. The next person is something with nitrogen, maybe. And the viewer engages and empathizes with the question, empathizes with the person not knowing, and is basically forced to think, right? I'm like, I guess I don't know. And Derek slowly, through the video, gets to the answer with the viewers who are confused and don't know. And so Derek's viewer is watching the video, is also confused and slowly learning. And until today, I remember that it's E equals MC squared. Because I saw that video, and I remember how we went through that, because there was a conflict that I empathized with. So there are different ways to design a video for your user. And another example from my upcoming research, which I'll be doing here with Amy and Matthias. And I'll show you the big picture. It's a lot of information, yeah. But my plan so I'm very passionate about coping skills and resiliency. And my focus group, so that's the future plan. So kind of like Derek Muller did with physics, I want to do with wellness education. And so I'm going to find a focus group, work with a focus group, see what kind of apps they like. Where do they watch their videos? Is it on Instagram, Snapchat? What format of videos do they enjoy using? And then according to that format, I'm going to try and make a video of that format with information that could be helpful for them about coping skills. And that's the first step that I do. Then I showcase it to them and see, did they like it? Would they want to share it? Was that fun for them? And then together with them, we're going to think again, how can we together make a video that would be exciting for them and that could teach them something? And this kind of cycle. The reason why I'm doing this is because for my master's at Harvard, I already did videos. I took information, I learned from edX that the the talking head, the lecturer, is not always exciting. Right? Lecturers are brilliant on their topic, but they're not entertainers. Some of them happen to be, but a very small minority. And I decided to take the lecturer out of the video, put in actors, and basically together with the lecturer, together with the professor, I would think what are the bullet points, I'll weave a story through it, and then present it in a video with the actors, and the lecturer stays the content supervisor. And I made a few videos. I'm going to show you one of the videos in the series, and now we could go back up. But what you would see is that what I learned after making the videos is that my feedback group were Harvard graduate students. So I made really good videos for educated people. So you'll see the video has some text over it. It was very popular at Harvard, but it actually doesn't target who I think needs it the most, which are the students who don't go to Harvard. It has the text, and you can tell me what you think.
Now, as we can see in Harlow's unusual experiment, these isolated baby monkeys chose not to hold on to their metal mothers who had milk, but instead chose to starve and hold on to the furry ones.
We did everything we could. It was too late, and
so how was it?
Man, it was horrible.
Hey man, what's up? Are you alright?
Nah.
Why am I so awkward about touch? Do you need a hug? Maybe it's just our generation. You know, our skin has receptors that stimulate emotion, and these nerves can cause resiliency to pain. Sterile. Huh. A decade ago, a condition called marasmus killed 99% of babies in orphanages before reaching the age of 1. They sterilized the babies, thinking it helped, but they kept dying.
Hey, did you drop this?
Finally, a nurse snuck in and gently touched the babies, and they slowly stopped dying. Touch was found to be super important in early childhood development.
Hey, we need one more player. You want to join us?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Well, come on!
Oh, hey! Oh! Oh, wow! Did you know, a slight touch on the arm makes you more receptive and willing to participate in activities? Look at me, I'm playing Frisbee now and I don't even know how to play.
Oh, you caught it! Yeah!
That was awesome.
In medieval Europe, nobles had these huge beds where they had room for their wife, kids, servants, and knights to sleep together to stay warm. Today we see it as shameful and uncivilized. Touch is so uncommon, unhygienic, and even invasive, so we hide behind phones and laptop screens.
So, how are you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
Did you know touch releases oxytocin, which is a very helpful hormone?
No, I did not.
Oh, now you know. Knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one example. I think we're towards the end. I could show you another very short one, but I want to open the floor to maybe questions at this point or feedback.
I really liked it, but there was only two things that I kind of didn't like. Or I didn't like when right at the end their touch went over the other text. Just because
disruptive.
Yeah, and there was one where there was a lot of text where I didn't really I skimmed read it, but I was concentrating on listening more than. But otherwise, I really liked it.
Thank you. It's one of a long series, by the way. So.
I think the audio was far more engaging than the
visuals.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think it's such a great topic, touch, and such an interestingly difficult one to deal with, because the whole thing about putting something on social media is immediately taking you right out of what you want to be doing, which is saying, touching someone, saying, you notice what's happening. So it couldn't be more difficult, really, as a central topic. And maybe it's because of my documentary bias, but I don't know if I believe things when I see they're put in the words of actors.
Yeah.
I think it's a problem for me, and my guess is it might not be a problem for other folk. So I'm willing to say it's just me, but what it does do is it makes me very aware that I'm being told something. And when I feel I'm being told something, I start feeling slightly aggressive.
Yeah. That's a brilliant note. So this was based on my experience with edX, right? And so I wanted to take the professor out, and I was like, I volunteered with students before, with teenagers before, from low-income neighborhoods, and they really enjoyed when I started talking about a story, which was personal, so more the documentary style. So I just went ahead and did the story, with narrating and actors. When I'm going to come to those students for this research, I'm going to try, part of why I'm moving out of Harvard, because I've been there for 8 years, I want to try and listen more and see what did they like, if they like documentary, if they like, arm wrestling. I mean, I don't know what's the style of information that they usually get. One of my questions is, what was something that actually changed your behavior? So that would be an interesting one. So this is a great job, for the film class that, I was just supposed to make a story. So my upcoming challenge is much, much greater. See, first of all, really, what do they like to watch?
It's interesting, it did feel slightly more real when you were playing Frisbee. The start bits definitely was
very active.
Yes, But actually playing Frisbee, I guess, because that actually is maybe something that they could really do, even if they were actors, that felt real.
Yeah.
I love the rat there.
That was okay. I'll show you another one just for fun, if you could help me go back up. It's a minute and a half, and it was a teaser for a course we did, my experimental team. So I brought all my arm wrestling friends. One more up.
One more up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the previous one. One more up, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was a teaser to make students want to take the course on negotiations. It's a business course. So I'll show you what we did with it.
Begin.
What do we do when we look into the eyes of an adversary?
We have other lines in the water.
You have other lines in the water that aren't fighting. Okay? I'm here now making you a deal.
How does this happen?
Most of the time, the best way to win is through cooperation.
Make sure you have a backup plan and that it's realistic.
Looks like they took him to the shredder.
So definitely had the 3 to 5 second engagement of like, what's going on? Any thoughts?
It looks like a trailer of a movie.
Uh-huh.
I know.
Yeah.
And you want to like see what's going to happen next.
Yeah. So can you imagine who would be the audience for this class? The audience that we were trying to address in this. The business students. So in our case, it was predominantly male, and the videos that they usually watch is Breaking Bad, which is that kind of series. So that kind of inspired that. It wasn't a lot of research, but that's kind of what we thought behind that.
I think what's really clever there is that, you know, we're all so sort of polite about our negotiations, but what that's doing is kind of visualising how we actually feel. Like, you go on! You know, because we don't quite say that. And I think that's part of our pleasure that we get, because we're seeing a sort of visualisation of our emotional and almost our archetypal response to conflict, and then cutting to a business person saying, well, you know, and so it's nice to have those tensions.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So I'd like to ask you, if you've got anything from it, you can definitely stay after and let me know. And yeah, you could take whatever. I hope that there's anything that was helpful for your research and your user, to maybe open our minds to think about them in a different way. I definitely learned that I'm not a very good listener. It's so hard for me to listen. So I really apologize if I haven't listened enough. But that's it.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you for coming all the way over from Harvard. I know you haven't come over only to do this. But,
it came to me hurt too. I believe it came out. Thank you so much.
And you'll be coming back?
Yes. I think I'm officially starting in September.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's really good.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming out at this time of day. Please help yourself to more chocolate. Take it home.
Just a quick plug before you go for the research centre. If you're not on the mailing list for the Centre for Creative-Relational Inquiry, if you just go into the website, you'll see there's a contact us email. You'll be on the mail list.